All right. So we are now live. We're going to give it a moment to breathe. Wholeness and Balanced Vibrations, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in this evening to the SLS. Of course, we're broadcasting live across all of the channels. Breathe. All right, there we go. One channel is gone live. Let me just go live on the other channel here. And that is working too. So, wow. All right, so let's breathe in for a moment. Let's take a moment. Let's gather ourselves. As I mentioned earlier, we have quite an interesting build in front of us this evening. We have 1.5 hours of runtime, which we're definitely going to hold to. That's what my moderators got for me today. Let me get some beats happening right now. Yeah, just while I dial in. Let's do this.
In the depths of night, when the mind's full of questions, seeking higher ground through deep introspection, eyes closed tight, but vision so vivid, breath's my anchor, spirits uninhibited, breathing in truth, wisdom in the air, ancient sages' voices, pulling up a chair, sitting cross-legged on the sacred path, echoes of the wise, guiding through the wrath, breath by breath, past lives intertwined, lessons from the age, present here in time, unlock the doors within, to higher ground, wisdom from the ancients, where truth is found, meditation sessions, clearing my mind, wisdom pearls gather, soul's truth defined, calm like the ocean, but with fierce might, breathing in the knowledge, ready for the light, elevating thoughts beyond the skin, transcend the noise, let the journey begin, peace in the exhale, power in the breath, each moment present, conquering death.
Bending minds, breaking lives through the digital haze. We reclaim our hearts in the light of a brand new day. Nourish our
Secret knowledge, seven's wisdom, keep it tight, that's facts. Energy so pure, channel higher, watch the tracks. Portals open, spirits rise, we astral with no maps. Seeking truth in sacred texts, decode the hidden traps. Omar speaking higher realms beyond the physical. Spiritual powers know they working far from typical. Occult knowledge, eyes awaken, visionary sights. Traveling through the astral, touching countless lights. Battling demons in the night, casting spells with might. Angels on my left, right, keeping visions bright. Shield the innocent, protecting children with our light. Phantoms tremble, falling deep into eternal night. Hexes broken, curses faded, powers in my hands. Warriors of light, we stand tall, protecting sacred lands. Incantations whispered low, magic flowing strong. Facing shadows, we emerge where we all belong. Guardian spirits by our side, divine in every form. Rising from the ashes, calm within the storm. Scratching on the vinyl, let the beat drop. Wholeness and balance, vibrations can't stop. Elevate the mind, let the rhythms unwind. Through the cycles of time, the truth we find. Keep the flow moving, let the energy rise. Wholeness in our souls, we mesmerize. Balance vibrations through the music we heal. Hip-hop's essence, always keeping it real.
Bending minds, breaking lives through the digital haze. We reclaim our hearts in the light of a brand new day. Nourish our souls. Oh yeah.
We tap into the flow.
All right. We up in here. So wholeness and balanced vibrations, everyone. I trust that I'm coming through clear. I'm going to be on the wireless mic today just because I want to be hands-free. I want to be all up here like this with the mic all in the face. And yes, so we got one in front of us this evening. You know, spoiler alert, I'm not here to talk bad about anybody. So, you know, just to get that energy on its way. Like if you come to see the dish or whatever they call it these days, you're not going to see it here, because actually I'm going to bring some powerful truth and some strength that's going to keep bringing us together, because the obvious, you know, may not become obvious for those who are not working with the common sense. But for those who see what's really happening and what's going on, you're adjusting. You're in the future. So remember, people who came 100 years ago where we have, their works, we can touch on their stuff. We can see what they were reporting was happening. And now we're 100 years, 200, 300 years in the future, depending on what you're reading. So you're able to go back in and you're able to check, what were they saying? How accurate is it? Do we see any common denominators from what they were experiencing and what we're experiencing? Is there anything that we can do? Is there anything that we can learn from their experience that's going to take us to another level? Because let's just face it, like when you really see how many people are in the world, and now that there's a denominator such as even money, you could definitely see that there's going to be a lot of just people without. And coming from a background myself of where everything wasn't provided, it puts me in a position now to really be able to look over life and see what were the most fundamental and dynamic things that truly changed my condition. And it wasn't just my condition, it was actually my family's future condition, my entire legacy, if you may. And I continue to keep going with that though, because I include everybody in my family now. Anyone can get it, meaning anyone can get this knowledge, anyone can get this vast vibration. And that's just how we got to be anyway, if we understand how we're in this feedback loop also. So if for some reason someone has you hating the universe or hating the people around you, or you just even hating yourself, then that is going to be the feedback loop that we're here to assist you in getting out of. And, that's another thing, like a lot of the things that I talk about now, sometimes I bring back that simplicity because we have children being born even now. So there's going to be beings in the future that catch on to Seven Bomar, let's say, for the first time. So they're going to need those initial simplified instructions, but they're also going to need it to be crystallized in a way that makes sense. And so that's what I'm doing here for this generation, is crystallizing this vast metaphysical knowledge in a way that it makes sense. And also in the process of learning myself and in the process of growing and also doing the best that I can. So standing true into the divine masculine, standing true into just being what we know is conscious, no matter what the definitions are and how they metamorph and how they change, because we have this true north within that tells us exactly when we're on the level and when we're not. And the big thing that you need to understand is anything that your heart is not into, you're not going to be able to predict. I came into some deep stuff today just within myself of realizing why I don't feel comfortable in certain fields. And like, let's say, for instance, the relevant thing was just in crypto and stocks, right? And how you can think you know what's going on, and in reality, you really don't, right? Because especially in this environment, nobody can really call the hands of time. But then there's other things, like when I jump into the spiritual arena, which I'm really comfortable in, like this is my claim to fame, if you may. This is where I find my ground at. If I can tell you exactly what's going to happen with anything years and years into the future and be really confident in what I'm saying. So that to me is even an indicator for me where I want to spend my energy and where I'm going to put my time at, because I know that's where my heart can be. And if your heart is not in what you're doing, especially in the future, then you need to get your heart into something that you're doing, because that's going to give you that solidity. Like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know what's going to happen next. There's no reason for me to second guess myself. I want to also for sure begin with touching and connecting, because, I don't want to speed right into this because I can, but I do want to take a moment and just celebrate the unity, because it's a real thing. And, like at some point, some were even looking like, yo, what's the hands up thing? And it's like, listen, there has to be a moment where we celebrate what we know to be the highest truth anyway. So that way, no matter what I say during this conversation, you still realize where it all crystallizes. It comes into that maturity of where that, listen, all of this that you're seeing around you is really a reflection of yourself. And if you choose to go into some kind of position with it or combat with it, then get ready, because it's all going to be coming back to you. And now you're going to be playing ping pong. But if you really learn how to operate the matrix, then you'll understand how to have a very, very smooth but powerful signature. It's really like Qigong, where, you're moving smooth, but don't mistake. There's a lot of power. There's a lot of strength. There's a lot of determination that's also there. And this allows others to also be around you, and it allows them to onboard through their own process, because we're all at different stages. But at the end of the day, we're all at the same stage, because that same stage is the unified field. So we're all there. I do my best to treat everybody that's around me, everybody that I come in contact with, like someone that I'm going to see again. And also that I'm very transparent. I always call it clear face, just transparent with as many realities, relationships, situations that I'm in, because it allows me to see through everything. It allows everything to just line up. So that's what we're doing here. This is the multidisciplinary. I wanted to give thanks for this space. I wanted to give thanks for the pillars that always arrive. I also want to give thanks for this bandwidth that we've created, because now it not only attracts who we are, it also allows others to come to the awareness of where they can get to be, right? So it's a very inclusive place. And we always have that motto: if you don't see the portal, be the portal. And what that means is that you can also stand in on your vibration, your city, your town, or whoever you feel like that you're responsible for giving this message to. You can adapt to the message any way that you want. You could take some, leave other stuff, and then you can repurpose it and put it in your own words and bring it, and it will still have a great level of potency to make change. So I want to say thanks for this 15 years. We'll just say that today. 15 years of beauty and legacy and triumph, because this is something that we did, and that means a lot. So being here in this space this long, even all of us, and not had the really, really crazy stuff going on, it means a lot. And we have to be able to celebrate that just as much as sometimes if we celebrate when we see something going crazy in some faction. That's the truth. That's realness, right? So we look to hold everybody up, and we hope that everyone stays strong in this experience that we're going through, and not get compromised in any way to their morals and their values. Wholeness. And with that being said, today is, of course, a time and an opportunity for us to look into the deep aspects of the matrix. At this point, I'm seeing top level stuff, and my responsibility is to the community. I'll just put it that way. So if I see something going on, if I see things happen, and if I see a move that can be made, if I can see something that's going to benefit you, I'm going to come right to you with it. As I said, it's a simple feedback system, most overcomplicated, but if you're giving out gems, if you're giving out jewels and things that are the most valuable to you, things that you find precious, then you're going to get that same kind of vibration and that kind of energy back. So it's not even that kind of stuff. It's that essence of that, right? And so that's the most powerful thing. So here we are, we're on the full moon, right? So I've got to dial back just a little bit so that way I don't go nuclear. We also just had the solstice, so we felt the switch over of the energy. And now we're in that other half of things where if you're still going uphill right now, it could get a little bit more difficult, and if everything has been actually timed properly, then you're going downhill right now. So you're cruising into, as the seasons change. But again, make no mistake that if you do feel like you're a little bit behind, this is the quickening conversation to get you on track. So the first thing I want to mention is that this is a serious note right now. We all have so many examples of how not only the nations that we live in, but the people that are actually in control of some parts of the society have thrived on creating the division. It's gotten to a point where if the only thing that we can pride ourselves on, it may be that we have so many selections, so many categories, so many different explanations for everything, and so many oddities and so much uniqueness, right? Like each person is unique. And in this way, with 9 billion people on the planet, that means that we have 9 billion variables at minimum. But of course, it's more than that. So if at any point in space and time, we start coming into conflict with things that are different, or the process of how things change, we can definitely look forward to potentially lifetimes of that experience because there's so many differences. There's so many things that are not the same. And when we come into conflict with those things, we often lose vital energy and vital force to keep us above the bar, lifetime after lifetime. So I'm telling you today that you can literally make moves this life that will forever allow every existence that you go into to be what you would say is that you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth in that existence. Because as you're going to see tonight, it's all really about energy. And we have two very powerful subjects that deal with energy on different levels. And those two subjects are spirituality and science in this case, as the headline is tonight. However, I want to mention why we're multidisciplinary. That means that we study everything that is important and we find the commonalities between those things. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to line it all up and see, okay, well, this is pretty much the same across the board. So you start noticing a pattern. So right now, as I said earlier, we have this duality pattern, right, where the tactic is simple. You go in and you find someone that does not agree with what everybody else is saying, right? There will always be somebody. And then you empower that person to a level where they really start becoming a faction in itself. Like they actually start getting others to decide, hey, maybe I want to actually go on that side too, right? So you've seen it with North Korea, South Korea, North Vietnam, South Vietnam, North America, South America. You've seen it in so many places where there's a division in the country, North India, South India, right? And then you get the same people in most cases. Now, the Uniteds, which as I mentioned, are experiments within themselves. The United Emirates, the United Kingdom, United States. These are places that they have this conglomerate of different races, generally the children of different cultures. And then there's a melting pot of experimentation going on within those nucleuses, but they're not the majority. The majority actually consists of countries where the peoples actually still do look like brothers and sisters, or you can tell where their genealogy is coming from directly. But yet these people are often locked into conflicts and locked into fights amongst themselves, of course, based on power, money, religion, you name it. So if you learned anything from Earth about what was the real problem here, you would know that it all was in the root of division. And so thus, if you ever wanted to find a solution, you would just look to what's opposite. And that's really what the common sense part of existence is. But many find that because of our training and how we've been pitted against each other, that taking on that, well, here's what I have to say about that, and then even being to a point where now in the society we celebrate each other for these differences, is created a really toxic environment where there's virtually no growth. And if you've really looked at things like, remember, okay, so I came in 15, 16 years ago, I'm 45 now. So I was 30, okay? So in that process, you got to imagine, I'm a 30-year-old is not really an old person. You know what I mean? You can put double on that and you're barely getting to 60. So you would have to imagine that I would have to be growing and learning along the way and starting to see things. And then I would become mature at a certain point and be like, man, you know, let me tell you somebody else that kind of reminds me of just the scenario or the vibe. Like if you look at Marcus Brownlee, for those who know him, he's got YouTube videos that are like, he's in his teens. He's like, what, 14, 15 on YouTube, right? All the way up to right now where he's a grown man. So we've literally watched this person grow from a child, for those who've been monitoring, all the way into now, you know, beard, soon he'll have a kid, he'll have wife. You see what I mean? So there's a whole process going on there. It's not even just YouTube. It's what's happening when the cameras turn off. And for me, because I am a deep thinker, when the cameras turn off, I have a concern about the community from the level of year after year, when we start seeing the same patterns, we don't really see what any community needs to actually make it and thrive. And then you see that repetitively. In my position, it could even drive you a little wacky because you're just like, man, you're like, what's going on? How are we going to make the change? But of course, I'm not going to go crazy because I'm going to just get right into action. So that's what I've been doing. I've been building, I've been creating a lot of things, and I've been addressing what I'm going to mention today, which is the core fundamentals of what it takes to actually have a community, while also still diving deep into the esoteric knowledge and the science. And I'm going to show you that today because in reality, we've learned in the multidisciplinary that no one system has yet been able to survive and be of use per se as the best system in all situations. And this comes in part because we're all at different stages of the journey. So we all create even different things and are subject to different types of environments. And so sometimes, actually not sometimes, in most cases, coming in as really the multidisciplinary or coming in as the chameleon or coming in as the jack of all trades, if you may, is really the only way in order to optimize the situation, because oftentimes you may find your mode or your way of being not harmonic even with the situation in which you're getting in. For instance, let's say, for instance, that even in the community, or at least in secret energy, there's a thing about all of us where even when we know somebody has been in secret energy or has heard of the message, we immediately adapt to right away that they understand certain things. And also there's a way that we really are with each other, which we call wholeness. And that really means that we're gonna do our best. And I can't speak for myself only in this, but it's just the vibe that we're always sending, that we're gonna do our best to not make someone else's life bad, difficult, horrible, based on the things that we've learned, because we know we're going to get that blowback, right? So in this community, that's how things are. And I've actually become used to being in that space, and I've been able to grow a lot from that space. In a nutshell, duality is super whack. And when you figure out how cool it is to be and vibe with people all around the world, which was even a desire that I had when I was younger. Like when I first even got on the internet and America Online and all that, we were talking in the chat, and there were some guys from Sweden, some people from China, and I'm just this little kid, and I type in the chat, hey, are you real people? And and everybody started laughing, and they were like, this must be his first time in a chat, right? And it felt like to me that I had leveled up because now I was talking to people from Sweden, right? Now all those kind of things they're taken for granted. It's like you could just get on the internet and communicate with people and talk to people, but that wasn't even the case before. And in that way, there was an essence to how we grew up. And there was an essence to what we knew was true and what we knew we wanted to be. And so that's, if you want to ever wonder what our elders have for us, that is one of the major things they have for us, is they have that essence. They have that nostalgia of the real mineralized sedimentary that we should continually be growing from. It's like sourdough. You want to keep bringing in this same yeast from, it's your mother's yeast. It was 80 years, 90 years old. You see what I mean? We want to preserve certain things about us that make us truly us, especially in these times where you get mimicry of what is not us anyway. And, we've become concerned, meaning that even within technology, we have a direct mimicry now to how people can blog and how people can create images and all of those things. But we also have different systems, such as the dream engine in our consciousness. We have a telepathy, right? We have a way of tapping into nature to know different herbs that do different things that can take us into different dimensions even, right? So there's a whole vista of what we're capable of doing still open for us to inhabit. But there's also another projection that is closing. And it's very important to make sure that you make this transition properly, that you actually take these words and these opportunities serious, is because they actually been made available for you, especially today. And also, I want to mention, like, if you ever wonder why it's happening, like, meaning why would out of know where you start getting the maximum truth, right? Let's just say you're really down in the dumps and you're like, man, he's talking about everybody but me. You got to often think about your ancestors that may have been years and years ago, hundreds of years, thousands of years, praying for you and entreating for you for this very moment because they respect and understand that you are them. So they see what you're going to come to experience. They see what the DNA is going to come to experience. And in that point, it's going to need an ally. So as I said before, when stuff hits the fan, you always see how fast people come together. But then when they start getting comfortable again, then they start separating. What I'm saying is that we hit the fan a long time ago. And as a community, or shit hit the fan a long time ago. And as a community, for us still to be as crippled as we are and as sensitive as we are and as not as developed as a community. I'm not saying as a person, because each person has their own stages of development. But as a community, it says a lot to what has really gone on in the space over not just my 15 years, but 30 years, right? When I was talking about Mount Shasta, 40 years, 60 years, and what has ultimately become of a power that is so great, it is better off hidden, especially to those who control the space, because they know the sheer power of it alone makes people like, and in this case, we'll fill in the blank, Terrence Howard. And so let me just explain it very clearly. Everybody here has been through it. And it's the phenomena of all of a sudden when the rug is pulled, whether it was DMT, Bufo, a mantra, a frequency tape, some mushrooms. I mean, the list goes on. And this is the interesting part. The Holy Ghost, whatever it was, the list is pretty extensive of how many different ways you can have a real breakthrough. Okay? But the breakthrough does always come with this specific phenomena, which I'm speaking from experience. And it's that the old way was a lie. And now a new thing has opened up. And everybody now must come, for me, a new thing has come up for me. And now everybody must transfer over to that, because that is going to be what saves us from the people who were keeping it as the old system. Okay. And now few people have had the longevity to go from neophyte kind of ideas, or what I would say is like even megalomania at a certain stage, or what I just call is like becoming a polymath, right? Like, because you take in so much and you see connections in so many places. You see it in language, you see it in numbers, and you just want to share it. But you've also experienced how disturbing that vibration can be, not only for the people that were around you before, were even depending on you. Some of them you got rid of them. Some people you broke up with. Some people you don't talk to anymore. So we have basically the dissolution of one life and the creation of a new life. But remember, people are still living in that old world. And so what really being connected is about, and unified, is about building bridges to different states of consciousness, right? Rather than being so concerned about when people are going to cross those bridges. Also, if you create a scenario where it's like us versus them, or you come over here or you stay over there, you actually will eventually become a part of the problem, no matter how much you think you're not, because that in itself is a pattern, and that pattern is the division pattern. So let's go forward with some deep knowledge now that we have set like just a foreground, because we're going to open this up. I'm going to speed through some of my notes here, and then I'm going to open this up as a dialogue, because I want us to build today on what we expect to see here very soon with our community at large, because of the moves that we need to make if we count on it being what we think it should be. Meaning, when you say community, when you say tribe, that means that we're looking out for each other. That means that we're already aware of where even resources go, where time goes, where energy goes, where our plans are. We're all aware of that. We're not distracted by the next thing that actually comes along that pulls that division string pattern that is so easy to trigger on anybody. Like they say, what do they call it? The trigger, trigger warning, right? And it's like everything is about triggering. If I put on this video, Terrence Howard and Neil deGrasse Tyson are wrong, or here's why Terrence Howard wins, or Neil had him, you're going to see the numbers double because there's a conflict there. And sometimes in life, when you're a neophyte, you're forced. That's why it says neophyte, like neophytes in the Matrix, right? You're forced to go through these battles because that's all awakening really is at first. It's just battles with the old state of being and the old ideas and the old forms of consciousness, even gaslighting you constantly about where you're going to be going next and what you really saw and what's really supposed to happen with your existence, right? And then, of course, you're processing that also with other people who either haven't been through the experience or kind of their experience got a little screwed up, right? They're at a certain part of the path of their experience, and you know what I'm talking about. So in this way, we have to come to see that, hey, there's a real history, her story to this epic battle that has already ended because technically the spirit and the science had already come together. But I'm going to show you something today that if it didn't come together in your consciousness for your time, for your family, in your space, then you were still outside. You were still like thinking that the world was one way that it really wasn't. Just like the parity between right now, Sudan and Monaco, okay? There's an extreme parity going on there. So if a person is just like dense, warped, they can't process reality, they can only come up with reasons why, like divisive reasons why reality is the way that it is. They won't really be in a position to figure out how to actually correct those things for themselves and also for those that are around them. Because remember, if you're trying to get the whole world to change and do something, I'm here to tell you that the whole world doesn't want to. Some do, but not everybody. So it's better to consider yourself, then the next nucleus, your immediate family, then the next nucleus, your block, your city, your town, your in-laws, these kind of people, and then spread from there based on how much energy and how much awareness and how much momentum you're actually building with this new foundation that you're creating, because that's also what it requires. If you come in with something new, hey, everybody, let's do this. You have to be willing now to support everybody going through the process of that transformation. So if you go to a Christian and you say, hey, Jesus is not real, and you just leave them like that, and then they believe you, as we've talked about it before, they leave faithless. And then that person, he's headed to the strip club next. He's back drinking again. Like all of the stuff that Jesus saved him from, he's back to doing because you weren't able to put in a foundation or a structure there that gives him even what the church can give a woman and a man, which at least is, like a place to stay, a meal, these kind of things. You see what I mean? So let's go in. So right now, let's just benchmark this very briefly. And I'll read it out loud. It says, when you can measure what you are speaking about and express it in numbers, you know something about it. But when you cannot measure it, when you cannot express it in numbers, your knowledge is of a meager and unsatisfactory kind. It may be the beginning of knowledge, but you have scarcely in your thoughts advanced to the stage of science, okay? And this was Lord Kelvin, right? So they come in heavy. They come in right away just like, look, if you cannot quantify and then replicate what it is that you're talking about, then you're still on a meager knowledge, right? And this is where these beefs between spirituality and what we can say is science began, because of a certain thing that happened that many may not be aware of because, hey, you just didn't come in your history books at the school. So even if you were paying attention, and it's because of this. Let me just turn my screen capture on real quick here. There we go. Here's the book for you. I'll share the link. Also, we on the Zoom side of things, so I know somebody in the Zoom will see if they could push the link through. I'll try to push the link through. Let me see real quick here. I just want you to have the sources so you can go and do your own research. So this book, Madame Blavatsky's Baboon, okay, is a 500-page book explaining to you exactly how Western mysticism was designed off of hoaxes. Now, you can borrow this book for some time, and there's even, and this is my gem today, my add to value. Did you know there is an Internet Archive downloader, right? So search for it in the Google, extension store. It's called the Internet Archive Downloader. Okay, so what it allows you to do is actually download any book that you can borrow, because you know that there are books in the archive that you can't just download, and they're always like the better books, right? And then they tell you, hey, you can borrow it for like an hour, like a week, but you got to read it through the screen. Well, they added to value. So just know that that's there. You can download this. You can read through it yourself. You can feed it to an LLM, ask it questions. But what it will basically explain to you is the conversation that I was having over here with Sybil. And this was about just the summary of Madame Blavatsky's extent into this creating the Western religion, which later on became, of course, the Golden Dawn, the OTO. It became entwined with Freemasonry. It became the York Rite, or the Scottish Rite. If you entered in Freemasonry, you studied this mysticism that was put together. And it was put together by straight charlatans, because it was well known the world over that the world had kind of come into a stage where there were numerous amounts of spiritual scammers. And their scams were at a totally different level. Like, they weren't just, just scamming directly. They would have like things set up in rooms like magnets and ghosts and letters and all types of things that made a person think that there was something spiritual going on. And it became so rife because after the contact with the Hindus and seeing their powers and abilities, which I'm going to show you here also in just a moment, of why that's so difficult to reproduce, but seeing their powers and abilities, they knew that there was a spiritual power, there was a spiritual world, but they could not at all access it. It was even because everything is very initiatory when we start talking about spiritual experiences, except for the drug cults, okay, which there's always been a lot, especially in the Greek whole pantheism and the whole dynamism of the Greek. Everything is all really based on, in many ways, getting high and intoxicated off of venoms and drugs and things and going in ecstasy. But the more organized systems, which you could say is more of like shamanism, these places were off limits anyway. Like, you couldn't even get into Tibet and places like that to study their knowledge and secrets. And that was some of the other things that they pointed out, was even the times in which this lady was saying she had traveled through Tibet, that there was absolutely no access for Westerners. Like, it was just totally off limits. So what happened was, and this is going to kind of stem into this video that I'm going to show you first, is what happened was there's a power. And this power, and let me go ahead and get my video running now. Let me turn the audio down a little bit on this video so I can talk over it. And let's also say goodbye to, I guess they call that the monetization, which is basically that they're not going to flag the video. So it's getting flagged now, and let's do it. So this run up real quick here. Let's actually make it a big screen. Forget it. We're not even going to try to duck the flag. There it goes. Okay, so we got some music going on here. Let me turn the music down just a little bit because it's not really necessary. But I'm going to show you how this is possible tonight, okay? Very briefly. to just give you the awareness that there's a part of the system that functions very similar to how a battery functions. And when that part of the system has a high charge to it, if you want to use that terminology, it then activates quite a few different abilities in the matrix. You don't get just one ability. One, the body is on a charge, so when you're asleep, you're not even really asleep. The body can't be, what you really are can't be contained by the body. Let's put it that way. The being you are is once you go to sleep and the body lays down, quote unquote, the guard, you're out, you're flying. And we mentioned that before, that was the natural process of even what we would say is death, is that you would go through living life, building chi, working with your yin, working with your yang. And then as you got older, your chi would be so large, what they used to call the dragon, that you were just waiting to get out of this thing. And you literally, I had another video, I didn't bring it tonight, but there's another video where you see the master choose to die. He's already like sitting in his 80s, 90s or something like that. Who knows how old he was? And he was there with the crew. And they got some exclusive footage. And basically this master chose to die right then. And then it took him only a moment to remove his own life. And then they carried him out of there and that was over. And where do you think he goes? Do you think that it's over for him? And this is what we really also need to focus on, is that life is not over when we leave here. So if we keep getting distracted, especially with the divisions, and we never really level up, then we, at best repeat, if not come back degenerated or broke in some way. Not just broke monetarily, but the current generator is broke. Okay, and this is what we need to kind of address this evening, is that this is the reason why we meditate, because we have a current generator in our body. Now, in the US and most of the Uniteds, they have technically magnets for this kind of power, meaning that when you're in a matrix and you have this kind of power, you become a magnet. Like, you see how many people are around? This is like being famous, which many people that are famous say they hate being famous. Like, keep it out. Like, this is the main thing I noticed with famous people, is they say, like, even they did an interview with Sam Altman just recently. He said, the only thing, like, I knew I was going to become a member or the head of this big company that was going to be so disruptive to the world, blah, blah, creating OpenAI, etc. But the only thing that I didn't prepare for, that nobody really could have prepared me for, was becoming famous. Because now, you got to really watch your back. Some people like you, some people don't. Everybody's on you. This is a whole different kind of life. Most of us never experience it, right? But at the end of the day, is that really what you want? Because see, in our society, it has learned how to take people who even naturally have these powers, because we all have them, and then put them in the light to be drained, if you may, for enough time to where their shine or their magnetism, especially if it's not being cultivated, dulls out. Then they can't perform the miracle. Because it was notating, as I was going through Sybil and I was continuing to question it about Madame Blavatsky's life, it was notating that actually Madame Blavatsky early on in her life did have some psychic powers. But these powers began to wane, and then that's when the shenanigans started. And that actually is another pattern that you should always be aware of, is that sometimes when a person is just living on their power or just living on their trick or whatever they can do, when they can't do that anymore for whatever reason, if they get into that despair because they haven't figured out where they need to move on to next, now they got to even pretend that they can do it. Okay, so this is one thing that we also notice within, let's say, spiritual communities where there is like a leader, if you may, and we won't call out any names, right? And let's say this leader has these spiritual powers, right? But generally those spiritual powers, that leader will not readily just readily go and try to teach others those spiritual powers in these modern communities. They will use it as their way to be like special amongst everybody else. And they'll bathe in that. And that is super dangerous, right? That gets you your nature boys, basically. It's super dangerous to have the Kundalini completely risen and open and be in that first neophyte stage, not get the right kind of cultivation around you, and then actually get people who now are like still feeling that you have something going on. And this is why we see a lot of people that get abused, because some of these ayahuasca servers, right now, everybody's an ayahuasca server. They go give the tea to other people because they want to take them through that experience first. And then when that person has that experience, they look at that person that gave them that tea and they're like, oh my goodness, this is like the person who opened my eyes. This is the person that is like powerful to me. And of course, when their eyes first open, if you're there and they see you and they see the radiance around you, because we all have a radiant field around us, right? It's just, what are those colors? But when they see that, it's, oh my goodness, this person, they're not seeing themselves generally, especially if that person is like an egomaniac, right? They're seeing this other person like, oh my goodness, it's like a God. And then they're just kind of like stuck, right? And I'm telling you, this stuff is happening all the time. And actually, while I'm like watching some of this stuff going on, especially with some of these communities that are even around here, I'm like, I don't want to be around. I'm not going to be associated. I'm not going to be involved, because even the master knows what they're doing. Just as I would know what I was doing if I was doing that, the master knows enough. You have an internal bearing that is telling you when you're getting off track and you're now falling into the path of one of those people that you probably already read about, or you already probably seen their story. Because again, these patterns are all over the place. So it really becomes whether you want to fall into the pattern or not. And so this is why I'm saying you gird yourself in these points, because now I'm going to show you why I feel, again, that spirituality and science did connect in certain sanctums already, but as a whole still remains separate, which is keeping most people dumb to the obvious. Let me show you. Let me see. Where's my little video here? Let me see. Is that my video?
When an isolated container is filled with a uniform layer of fog and then given sufficient enough voltage, something fascinating happens.
Just watch this.
When an isolated container is filled with a uniform layer of fog and then given sufficient enough voltage, something fascinating happens.
I really hope this is showing up on camera.
It's haunted me so much that I knew I had to dig deeper, gather opinions from other professionals, and run simulations which painted an incredible picture of what's happening.
I have to say, there isn't a tremendous amount of scientific literature on the topic. Quite frankly, I found very little. And it may have real-world applications. So this is a deeper dive into one of the strangest phenomenons I've ever seen, high-voltage nebulography. You know, high-voltage physics opens an entire sandbox of beautiful phenomenon. It's why I've created an entire channel around it.
I've shot videos on electrostatic firebending, water bending, electrostatic levitation, self-healing fractal patterns.
But when I saw this fog phenomenon, it completely broke my brain and left lasting questions.
Asking viewers for what their hot take on what the cause was, the explanations ranged from capacitive effects to electron gun scenarios.
Luckily, this effect is extremely easy to reproduce.
This includes a large flat container filled with warm water, lots of it actually, a physical separator on one side that has a gap at the end like so, a piece of dry ice, and a low current, high voltage DC power supply. This 20 kilovolt battery powered Wimshurst is ideal because, as you can see, totally harmless. The electrical ground is attached directly to the water and the high voltage positive to your body.
The key here is low current, less than a milliamp, which is completely safe in this application. Now, as for voltage, I found anywhere from 5 to 30 kilovolts works great.
Once the dry ice is dropped into the water, the separator allows the CO2 fog to flow throughout the container, forming a uniform sheet. And at this point, the power can be turned on and the magic starts. The trails range from hair-thin to somewhat thicker, as seen here, and even really wide, unpredictable bursts. Actually, quite unpredictable. Your finger can draw on the fog from over a foot away. It really is something beautiful. Perhaps the most intriguing of all, though, a flat palm placed just over the fog. Oh my God. Creates a clear vortex.
Okay, so I know there was no sound on the Zoom side, so I'm going to explain this, but did you see something familiar? So let me explain this to you just from just the dynamics of what I've come to also experience with my energy centers, and then also messing around with electronics and also messing around with magnets. Okay. So it turns out that the body has another gear, right? So you can add energetic potential to the body, right? But the body is also, it has all of these orifices. And in many ways, if these orifices are not closed at certain times, then you can't really store the energy, right? So there's basically more ways for a person to leak energy than it is for them to actually, well, you just say there's a lot of ways for a person to leak energy. Like they can leak energy out of their dantane, right? And they can leak energy out of basically where their anus is. Like you can leak energy also from the radiance of your brain. Like when your neurons start firing, especially when you're angry, you naturally give off BTU, which is like a British thermal unit measurement of heat coming from your body. You also have an electromagnetic field, as you know, not only the one called the aura, but also the one that creates static and harvests static from the environment, right? So everything around you is rich with energy, but there's also so many ways for you to be drained of energy when you start topping off. Because see, that's where the discipline comes in. It's like when you have a lot of energy, it's like having a lot of money, not wasting all of that energy and wasting all of that money, or poorly investing that energy and that money, or poorly investing the energy like you would be poorly investing money into whatever it is that energy is going into. But these phenomena that you're looking at, and this is why it's important to see this, because they conducted a scientific experiment about a phenomena that was occurring, but also because they lacked that spiritual component, they weren't able to go that next step to realize that what this device, which is called let me just put this on the screen here, electrostatic generator, which you would have a couple of them in class, but this one's built a little bit different. But you can see it's running on 2 AA's. And just a simple driver of that energy into the body sprays the energy out of the fingers and sprays the energy out of the palms the same way Buddy's spraying the energy right here. Let's just go to the end right here, right? So that was that same movement, because now what you have in the body is you have a buildup of this energy and a buildup of this
When an
force.
isolated container is filled with a uniform...
There we go. So you have a buildup of this energy and a buildup of this force, but you can see that even when we're saying, hey, spirals come out of the hand, right? This was something that, you would even be looked at crazy for, like, yo, I got power and energy coming out of my hand. Now, of course, anybody that has worked with Qigong and Neigong and things like this, they know of a little bit of this even, right? But we're seeing like clear examples that you could take to the kids and be like, look, you have energy coming off your body, right? Because even though this is, you're running a direct voltage into the body, right? So in this way, like Dynamo Jack says, it's not electricity, it's chi. So this is not necessarily the energy that is the healthiest for the body, but it shows you just when energy is driven into the body, where the energy comes out, okay? So when we mix that, it gives us a lot of awareness. It gives us the awareness that, hey, could there be a human charger? Could, we potentially draw basically, could we cut ether with that force? Because that's what you realize what happens next is that if you have that kind of flow coming off of your like your finger, right? And then you literally can cut the portal open if you like Doctor Strange or whatever, if you had the chi power, if you had enough chi force. And what I'm trying to explain to everybody is chi force is depleted in division. Like when I first came through my experience, I couldn't even touch there was a sink there. Touching both sides of the sink with water in them caused a horrendous shock when I touched both of those at the same time. You never did that again. It was extremely painful. You were carrying this charge, but you knew people wanted this charge. I swear, it was like something you naturally knew. And that's what being in that state does, is it puts you in a state of knowing. And as I said before, this is also what you see in people who they come into enlightenment. And that's why I say enlightenment produces polymorphs. So while they may not know exactly how to explain what they're explaining, and they may not even they may have just even used the integers that they have been given to explain what it is that the experiences that they're going through is about, right? But in truth, after give them about 10, 15 years, they're going to come into something totally different if they can just maintain. And that maintaining is, of course, when you hit initiate, let's say, it already starts setting in where you see where you were wrong. And you learn to accept being wrong. You start to enjoy it. You start to be glad that you made mistakes and bad assumptions about certain things, because some of those things were standing right in your way from getting on to the next level. And as I said before, if there's any kind of enemy or any kind of opponent, they must be eliminated within the mind and in the consciousness, or thus they would stand in the way of your own very progress. So they must be dissolved. And the easiest way that they're dissolved is in the awareness that all is self in different stages and times and forms of metamorphosis. And what you're here to do is you're here to actually create some of those bridges between certain states of consciousness, maybe not all of them, while also not getting yourself compromised energetically because you've entered into a power struggle. If you ever plan on cutting holes through the ether in order to pass through portals, having enough charge to be able to ascend, this means there's a certain amount of thrust that the spirit body, if you may, needs to make longer journeys. But if all that's being burned up in something that you think this is so petty that it doesn't have anything to do with your power and your energy. And see, the thing is that this is why in this world, there are things that you can be given, like beauty, that also can even become a direct hindrance to your growth because everybody else is looking at how beautiful you are. This is what we have to realize what's going on in the matrix is that it's easy for a person to spend so many lifetimes here getting degraded that they become completely unaware of their power. And then they can't go anywhere beyond this. They can't imagine anything beyond this. And the energy starts residing just on that low state. And then a person must make their home. Because see, like in the law of alchemy, you know that one of the major laws that exists is the law of polarity. So you would automatically know that if there was a high God, if you may, that there was a low God, right? And then you start realizing how this world, if you really look at it, has been deep in deception and lies for so long. It's filthy. If it wasn't for nature, there would almost be nothing great to see, including how humans treat each other. And, you know, again, when you're wise, just how many people are not really genuine, how they're still stuck in the childish, like inferiority complexes and all that stuff, and how it sticks right out. But remember, there's another faction that they encourage that because they can capitalize on that. They don't have to be afraid of anybody who operates like that. So learn from the knowledge today, but let's go ahead and open it up. I got one final thing here is to understand that. So we had two sides of things that need to be checked. In spirituality, people needed to be checked with even something like science, because too many people started thinking that you couldn't quantify what was really going on spiritually. Like when I go into a high vibration, I can hear the ringing in my ear and I can measure that ring and I can tell you the frequency that I'm on. A change happened there. I can measure that change and I can give you that number. Also, as you see here, if I say, hey, you got energy and power coming right from your hands, you just need to make sure that you stay charged up. And remember, when you're laying hands on somebody, that power and that energy is coming from your hands. It's so powerful, it can even set things on fire. So all your little Dragon Ball Z ideas and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all of this were real. But it still requires that if you're going to go into that discipline, the first thing is to not be listening to everybody else, because they are not initiated yet. See, that's the thing about initiation. Initiation only means they haven't seen it yet. They haven't seen the power. So if you're talking to an uninitiated person and you're telling them that you can float, then that's not going to be something they can digest. Also, you don't really see people float on TV, because what it takes to do that is already in itself, like as an adept, you understand that that power, that's not what it's for. And using it that way is almost like a one-way ticket to what you would start seeing when people start getting a lot of energies around them, and then their forces start being technically drained, right? It's kind of like the more you tell people about some power or something that you have going on that's special, the less you can actually be able to do it after a while. I call it the normalization. It seems like the Matrix wants you to normalize. So you can even start taking a supplement and be flying through the roof, and then take the same supplement like a few days later and it does nothing. What happened? Why is the body normalizing? I had a talk with Finn about this, and we came to the conclusion, to stay on the balance note, that normalization is needed, because if you go into a high vibration, you need to normalize to that. Like you go into a high vibration, you'd just be sitting there with your eyes wide open and not even able to function and move and do anything if your body didn't say, oh, okay, let's turn down the governor. Let's get less fluid going in here. Let's do that. Let's try to normalize this experience, so that way, we don't just blow this thing up, right? So your body has these automatic systems like that. But those same automatic systems make it like you're always trying to get more in the meditation. You're always trying to breathe more and do more in order to keep your energy field sustained, when not necessarily realizing at times that you are sustained. You're just normalized. Now you're a powerful being, still in the matrix, still in the physical reality, but not of the physical reality in that way. You see? So this is the maxims. But when you get into the, hey, let me show everybody this power and let me show you how to do this, then, obviously there's a huge thing that, especially in the past, that was then set up for you to deal with, because then people were going to thrust you on their shoulders. People weren't going to understand really the power that you were able to have. People were going to insist that you were in some type of cult. Even people that were powerful would feel threatened by you. All those kind of things were going to be a part of your projection and a part of your reality if something like that happens, and it's not time. But now what I'm also saying is times change. Now we have science, as I mentioned, and spirituality at their peaks. And the reason why I have to mention science today is because, so I've been on this thing, and many know that we have a show scheduled on July 5th. You may want to RSVP, mark your calendars. And I'm going in on the water. And I'm going in on it in a way that's going to allow you to know everything about water and how to prepare the water for yourself. But I'm going to tell you, in the process of me starting to learn more about how to create and work with nanoparticles and molecules, and using LLM to teach me step by step what to do and even what equipment I need, I found eBay rife with even $80,000 machines going for $2,000, $3,000. Machines that measure everything. In fact, that excerpt that I gave you today from Lord Kelvin was on the front page of a manual of an $80,000 machine. And they said, I'm sure Lord Kelvin would be proud of this. I think it was a Wyatt Theos 2, right? Because this machine, when you put in a liquid, it's going to tell you the particle size, how many particles, how much electric charge is coming from it. So with those measures and those back and forth measures, you're able to create energetic water. You're able to know when you went wrong. You're able to know when you didn't add the right element or there wasn't enough of it. There's a precision there. And so we have to remember that a lot of times, let's say, maybe he was in a bad situation anyway, but if a person catches a bullet, I doubt that we're going to go the holistic method to get them back together again. You see what I mean? Like, we're not going to just pour tea tree on it and insist that we're going to just eat some of these herbs. No, we're going to rush this dude to the hospital, see how many arteries may have been punctured, see how much, you see what I mean? Clean out the lead. We're going to use these advanced methods to make this person have the best opportunity of survival. So this is what I was also saying is that, so if I come in and I'm like, here's another example. If I come in and I'm assuming everybody is like secret energy, that everybody is tribe, okay? And then I walk into the cryptocurrency space and then I walk into a Shiba Inu tribe, let's say, and I imagine that Shiba Inu is the same thing as secret energy. I'm now the exit. I'm the retailer for the whales to exit on. You see what I mean? I could be the last one there, like, oh, baby Shibu, what happened to you, right? Because I'm like all in my feelings. I'm using spirituality in something that takes a skill. And that's the other thing about the access that you have right now in the matrix, because right now we have reached super intelligence. They skipped past AGI. They went to ASI. Artificial, I think artificial is becoming like the word that allows people to still not like be so like concerned. It's like, no, don't worry, it's artificial. No, it just artificially took your job. Don't worry about it. It's not real. No, it's not real. None of it's real. But artificial has become the word because it's like consistently saying the same thing that makes a person feel what? Safe. As long as it's artificial, well, we real, so we can't never be replaced by nothing that's artificial. Okay, we safe, right? No, get to high ground and stay on high ground, right? That's what this is about, right? Like, so what I'm showing you here is SSI.Inc., okay? And it's because, as you know, there's been quite a nasty breakout that's gone on over there at Skynet. I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm sorry. Okay, anyway, there's been a nasty breakout over there at OpenAI. And the lead developer, Suskever, has decided to merge with, one, the creator of Doom. I'm talking about the game that, some of us played that are old enough as children. And also a couple Jewish guys that are so heavy with money that they're like, it only takes a few of us to reach super intelligence, but we're going to do it safely. We have it. It's there. Now, we also know through rumors, OpenAI has AGI. They have it. It's there. And it's getting the description like Hitler walking in on the superhuman. I seen the superhuman. He was cruel and intrepid, meaning that because, again, that who is it being built by? What is its purpose? And this is why I was saying, so one, you have to check the spiritual scammers everywhere since the Theosophical Society, since the African churches, since even the great temples of Amun, even when it wasn't on popping and on fleek and they got rid of the symbols and there was no more power left. You see what I mean? So that's what we're saying is a pattern. Something has a lot of power at one time and then compromises that power somehow and then has to pretend like it has that power, but then kind of degrades everything around it through that process, right? So that's the pattern. That's the hijack to avoid, right? So as we're seeing that the spiritual hoaxes, like I said, African churches, also celebrities have a tendency, just like, well, you see cats, they go to jail, then they become Christians, right? So it's like the perfect opportunity to kind of clean things up. So in the industry, especially when your target audience is waning, the perfect opportunity is like Daddy Yankee becoming a Christian, right? Or NLE Choppa, playing for a while, like he's doing the meditations, he's doing the yoga, he's doing the smoothies. And then now what, right? Now it's back to murdering everybody on the block and killing everybody, because when that's not, but see, what I'm saying, though, is that never goes without me at least getting 10,000 messages about how conscious NLE Choppa really is and that I really need to tune in, which is another level of madness, really, right? Like, again, I would have to always refer to the masters, because as an adept, I can only learn from masters. So I will go to the masters of specific subjects. So really, if I wanted to know what Terrence Howard was talking about, in my world, I would really go to Daniel Winter and maybe even a little Stan Tenen, even though they definitely are not in the same boat together. But what I'm saying is that, and even Jane, I would go to Jane too, 108, right? Because this is their entire life. This is the up and down. Nobody likes you. I love you. I built it. It blew up. I burned down. I got it back together again. I got another refined version in the new website. This is that. That's where you get the distillation, right? So even before, sometimes we're so eager to go out and say something, maybe it's good to observe. And we talked about that in the past. Like, hey, maybe we'll fall back for a moment and just observe and just learn and see what's going on and just study, especially since you have now super intelligence. Because the real play that's about to happen here, and it's a serious thing, is that anything that you could even really do here on these computers, Droid can do it, right? And maybe it can't do it as good as you, but it could do it way more cheaper, and it could do it for 24 hours. Remember, we don't work 24 hours. So we have to really get in tune fast, figure out what we're good at, and get assembled properly and start flowing, right? So, of course, the good part about it is we already got started on this. So I'm inviting again everybody to the 5th, because water is a big thing. It is your power. It is your fuel. It is your energy. It's what your body is using, and you can charge it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And, if you're thinking, hey, we're just going to be talking about Hydrolux, no, we're going to be going through everything from ppm to ORP to conductivity to microsiemens to everything, cavitation. So all of this we're going to be doing, we're going to be measuring, and then you'll know, like, oh, okay, now I know. All right. So the other thing is that, as I was also mentioning, on the same flip side, you have to really be for sure scrutinizing anything that the same group, because they lock the knowledge in. That's why they can't even explain the simple voltage coming from the body. As he said, it wasn't that much scientific research. Why do you think it wasn't? This is a dead ringer to the power in the body, right? So there's no way you could trust anybody who would light off a hydrogen bomb with the awareness that it may ignite the upper atmosphere. Now, I know some will say there is no atmosphere. I'm not talking to you, but I'm saying there's gases up there. And if you don't know anything about that, you're just in that megalomania. There's gases up there. And if they were worried that when they ignited the first hydrogen bomb, that they may set the upper atmosphere on fire, and they chose to do it anyway. The bomb was 100 times stronger than they had measured it was going to be. And if it wasn't for the Chinese fisher boats that got vanquished, and Japanese boats actually that got vanquished in the ocean, we would also never known anything about it, because it was their news that reported it. And this was one of the first bombs that we let off, right? Okay, so this is that science. Science will be over there pumping a collider, which will rip space-time. Like, it will Mandela effect. Like, for real, there's portals. All you got to do is get something powerful enough to keep running in circles like Flash, and something will open up. This is like the realities are they're fabrics and films within themselves, so they can be cut, they can be open. Some were doing that just in magic, trying to open it with intention. Now they got opening devices, right? But they'll do all of that, not even wondering if 23.6 degree or 26.3, whatever it is, tilt will become 30 because we turned this thing on. They're more in the pursuit of the direction they're headed than actually thinking, hey, what's going to happen when we release super intelligence on everybody? How's everybody going to adjust? And one thing that you could make sure of, though, is if you could do anything complex with your hands, you're good, because AI cannot do hands. I'm just saying, like, serious. They say it's going to be a while before, even with robotics, that if you're doing something with your hands and it's somewhat complex, your job is safe. But if you're doing something that you could probably do remotely, you need to make sure that you're positioned properly and get re-educated to start pushing through those gifts through those hands. Okay. So also, I wanted to mention, if you, again, imagine an AI plumber, right? Like, it's not gonna happen. Imagine he got to drive over there. He's just in there getting electrocuted in the water. No, I'm joking, but I'm just saying there's some things that are just really off limits, but there's other things that's just direct game, especially if you haven't checked with your boss yet and seen how he feels about all this. And if he's ready to just replace the entire workforce, or if he's gonna be one of those companies that say, hey, none of it around here, and then get phased out, right? So it's a serious thing. Automation is coming, and we need to ask ourselves, one, exactly how beneficial, and this is the last thing. This is it. I've given you the whole hour and 30, so now I have to give you 30 open. How useful is much of this knowledge in the physical reality with your children and with what you know you need to do in the future? How much is this knowledge useful? How much is it to know that the Anunnaki were here? How does that change things for you? These are just real critical questions to learn if you're still in neophyte or if you're still in the depth. If you're not going to worship Anunnaki, why are they even important? Because the whole story would just put you into a subservient. They was using you to mine the gold. Even with things like flat earth, there could be pushback. But at the end of the day, flat or round, how does that really change things? Does that shorten?
Pardon the interruption, brother. Your sound went out. Time out, brother. Your sound went out. If you can hear me. Check one, check two. Holiness, brother. Your sound is out. Okay, we got him on the other side. Hold on, fam. We'll be right with you momentarily. 1 second.
Well, it looks like we
Started
have
talking.
lost sound. I'm over here
Started talking
watching
about the
this stuff,
Anunnaki, man. That's what happened.
but 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 my chat doesn't say. Okay, that
Yeah,
must have just happened.
we were trying to alert you.
All right, so I'm gonna do a quick sound check right here, real quick.
Can you
All
hear
right,
me?
so that's another mic. Yeah, I had to, my wireless mic. So somebody said I cut out during flat Earth, right? So I was basically saying how useful is any of the knowledge to what we are now facing, and then I would just itemize again. What does it take to really create something that is going to stabilize us? One, we need unity through a curriculum. So I'm just going to finish that though, because I was there. Like, it's like from neophyte to adept, how much of the knowledge is really useful? If the Anunnaki were here or not here, how does that impact things for you right now? If the earth is flat or round, how does that impact things for you right now as far as your bottom line? Once you know that already, let's say like you got to check stuff off the list. Like, you don't keep going 2 + 2 is 4, 2 + 2 is 4. You learn that already. Let's move to the next thing. What is the next thing? Do you think that these books are telling us everything when you can see a simple experiment showing that 2 AA batteries can kick off virtually a ether cutter through a person's finger and jump up their voltage a little bit? Now, what if that was a vegetable battery or something that is a little bit more harmonic than nitrate acid? You see what I mean? Have we really figured out what is going on in our consciousness, or are we on this loop with these shapes and squares and all these weird geometries? Like, I got tons of them in there. I got chestahedrons, the misting platonic solid. Like, what has any of that really done though? It has no innate power sitting there, no matter what element it's in. It could be in gold, it could be in silver. They got things that they sell and they put the stuff on there and they say, hey, you know what? This is going to have power. And then this stuff is not even conductive. You see what I mean? So there's a real science to this that does create power, but you need the skill of spirituality and you need the technical and the scientific, and you need them merged together to be able to show someone how that works. Because I will say, I really did like what Neil was saying with, I need to be able to repeat that myself. Same thing in all of this. Like, if I'm going to show you something that's going to benefit you, you need to be able to do it on your side. So I like to stick with things that we all do. We all dream, right? So that means we can all become lucid dreamers. So the last thing is that you have a few points. One, you have unity through curriculum. Okay? Unity through curriculum. This is why the church is so strong, because it has a Bible and everybody agrees on that. So when there's conflicts, they always go back and settle things through that book. This is why we created a curriculum. And we will continue to add more and more exact knowledge to that curriculum until eventually that curriculum is just a co-pilot, a lifestyle co-pilot where you can query it for whatever you need to know, and it will give you the exact knowledge, and you can go and prove it by clear proofs, and you can break it all the way down and build it back up again. But even as of right now, the university is still sitting on 800 videos or it's about 400 videos, not on YouTube, not anywhere, but organized in what needs to be learned about dealing with consciousness, the world, existence, etc. Then we have a place for like minds to connect. That's called the church, right? So there's a place that these people go. They congregate, right? That gives you the sense of being and awareness. This is why we have the tribe. We're in these spaces. We're right here on the SLS. We're in Tribides. We're inside a Discord. If you want to talk to me, you ping me a message. You have to start even going to these communities at large and be like, yo, why do we never talk? Why do I never see you? Why is there no place for us to meet and congregate and speak with each other? This stuff is already set up. It's already functioning. It's already working. It's already debugged. We also have education on trades and skills and resources. This is the opening field for us. Now that we have super intelligence here, what should we be learning? Who's navigating for us or with us? Who really knows what we're going to see next? That's what I'm doing. I'm staying in those sanctums to make sure I understand, hey, this is how things are going to be moving. So I'm well prepared for what's going to happen. And then also we're strategically situated to where we're benefiting. As I mentioned before, anybody who knew about the stock market knew when COVID hit to short all the companies that could not survive because people weren't there. And those people all became millionaires, billionaires. That's where your wealth transfer went. There's a whole new group of people that are already mega millionaires while most people are still trying to figure out how they're going to get theirs. So these wealth transfers and these resets have already been happening. So you got to stay in tune, stay on point. And then lastly, employment for those who share the same ideals, meaning that not just employment, but contracting. You work for yourself, but to go and know all of this and then go and grind into something that actually goes against your values is also an energy drainer and an issue and a conflict that needs to be dealt with. But it should be addressed by the community at large. We're strong enough. Create jobs. Like you go to a nation, create jobs. You go to a tribe. What is my purpose? What is my responsibility? So this is what we're doing. So I want to say wholeness and balanced vibrations to everyone. I want to go ahead and open this up just for a minute for questions. And just because I want to get that space and time, you know, I went in, I can't say anything about it. I went in and it didn't cut out for me that hour that I thought I was going to take. But let's go ahead and open this up and just finalize because I know my moderators got to get out of here. Actually, we got 15 minutes. My moderators got to get out of here anyway. So let's do it like that. What's up, Sean? Let me go ahead and unmute. All right, so the lines are set.
There we go. Wholeness fam. You can hear me? Check one. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. All right, fam. Yeah, so the mics are open. Anybody want to jump in? This is a great time. This is a phenomenal build. Again, fam, giving thanks for the family over on the YouTube side, on the Facebook side. You guys holding it up in the chat. Appreciate everybody sharing and building in that space. So who wants to tap in? We got the brother Cam in the space. Wholeness fam, what's good?
What's good? What's good? Wholeness to everybody out there. Yo, I wanted to say, I heard you give a little hint to kind of agreeing with Neil deGrasse and with the whole Terrence Howard thing that's going on right now. I just wanted to get your take. Are you more leaning towards on Neil deGrasse or Terrence Howard?
Hold on, let's make sure the brother can hear. Wholeness,
Okay.
Sev, can you hear? Did you hear the question?
No, I didn't. I actually realized why I couldn't hear anybody telling me anything. It was just one button, but now I can hear everything.
Button.
That one
That
button.
one
man.
button. Go ahead, brother Cam. Ask again, fam. Wholeness.
All right. Cool. So I heard you mention Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you was kind of saying like you might be leaning towards him a little bit, but Terrence Howard's making a lot of noise right now. So I wanted to see, what are you leaning more towards, Neil deGrasse or Terrence Howard right now?
I'm not leaning towards anybody. To be honest, I put myself in both of their position, right? And they're going to appeal to different ideals. So in Neil's case, I don't think he's willing to risk everything that he's gained at this point because he's really, for lack of better terms, a token inside of a very, very structured field, right? When we talk about NASA and we talk about all that. So, I have my own views and ideas, but again, it's not about just, going into beef like, this guy's working for the establishment. He's working for an institution. Like, you have to see this person as a man that has gone through his life and has responsibilities, including his kids, his life, his legacy. And if he was ever to transfer over to something else, it would have to be pretty solid. Other than that, he's just going to continue to toe the line that he's towing, right? And in that way, he's an opposite to somebody like Terrence Howard. Okay. And this is what makes it a perfect, I don't even think they was really in a rival. It was just, that wasn't even the point of conversation today. It was like to show, actually, we need to see Terrence Howard and Neil deGrasse Tyson. If you could ever see that, like them coming together, it would be like a sign that the Matrix is finally getting it. You see what I mean? Because they would kind of link up as brothers and be like, look, let's just go at this. But again, there would be I think there would be a lot more digressing on deGrasse Tyson's side about what needs to be believed than it would be on Terrence. Now, in relation to Terrence, okay, so I have this thing about that. As I explained before, like I used to be in Atlanta and I used to go to the comedy club, and there were these people in the room, and all of those people end up becoming famous. Okay. And I've noticed that throughout my life that certain people that were impactful later on, that I saw them in early life, or I spent a moment with them. And in Terrence's case, I happened to be in Vegas, and I was coming up from the bottom floor of the Bellagio up to the main area. And as I'm coming up, Terrence jumps in the elevator with two Asian girls. So he may not ever remember me, but he would definitely remember that night he was with the Asian girls. And I was like, yo, what's up, Terrence? And he was like, yo, what's good? And he was just as cool and laid back as the Terrence that you see right now. I got off on the second floor going up, and he went all the way up, right? But now look at us. Here we are, 20 years later, and now Terrence is clearly going through the entire process of enlightenment, right? And in that way, he's like the underdog. So he's always going to be able to go. That's Terrence's path when you look at it. If you study ideology, like even from Hustle and Flow to, virtually B-rated movies all the way. So you can see like an archetype and a path with many people that end up becoming the leaders. But he's older. So remember that he's like one generation even ahead of me in that way. So I feel like that, as I explained to everybody else, even the vibe going across the networks, regardless of everybody's different agenda, because people don't talk to you unless they have some kind of agenda. So Joe has some kind of agenda, whether even if it's just views or, there's stuff that's layered. People don't do things for anything. Even Terrence, he has his own agenda. He has his own thing that he wants to do. And we would expect him to, right? So I just think that when we come to the basis of all this, though, we have to be able to ask ourselves, so are we being entertained, or are we actually going to build something? And that's where I feel like that the community has to start going at next. Okay, like what are we going to build now? We're going to build the Terrence Howard Institute of Learning. Are we going to, what is Neil going to do, right? Like he's going to sit back on Star Talk. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. I'm still looking for that next level of activation that we all need to reach, where it's no more just conversation. It's like we really come in and show this intelligence. We show this spirituality, as we're calling this spiritual power. You see what I mean? And if we, because remember, Terrence said he doesn't really have any money right now, but he knows a lot of people, and a lot of people were ready to rally behind him. So the biggest thing for a person like that is to determine, but where are we going? You notice that's the thing. Like we could get so excited about everybody knowing about this, but I've always said that it's almost akin to waking somebody up and they were asleep. And it's like, people don't like to really be woken up. You better be waking them up to like breakfast in bed or something like that. And that's not what's happening right now. We're waking people up to basically almost a nightmare. So it becomes, well, shoot, we need to get some front lines of assistance happening, and we need to really build something. So when you see, then it becomes like a beef. Now it's like Terrence Howard versus, and then, people have garnished a lot of views by just saying Terrence Howard was wrong. He's an idiot, right? And this is like 50 million views right now to do something like that. And I would say for sure, if we didn't recognize within Terrence ourselves, even when we go through that awakening, then we will be blind. Neil, definitely less so. He definitely seems like somebody who has literally been put in the position that he's in because of certain benefits to having a person like him there. And then I also feel like Billy Carson be trying to come for that position if he could. You see what I mean? And that's just the whole take on things. That's as much as I'll say.
It's like centralized versus decentralized, right?
Basically.
All right, fam. Let's keep it rolling. We got the fam Justice in the house. Holding this fam. Keep going. You can
On this
unmute.
fam.
Holding this fam. What's up?
Hey, it's good to speak to great minds here today. I've been thinking about this. Okay, I just want to put some disclaimers out there. I haven't watched the full video just for the simple fact that I believe I seen certain cues that were like, I feel like this is gonna be psychological, like manipulation on behalf of the community. So I'm like, I'm not gonna really watch it. Just the reason why I say that is because number one, the marking of the red, when he was, oh, I'm gonna basically judge my peers. The way he's basically saying there in the video, I didn't watch the full video. I'm gonna tell you why. So when he first came into it, I just heard Seven. He said that when he first started, he said since he couldn't replicate it, basically he's saying it wasn't viable to even go towards. And I was like, it's like kind of for me, it was like saying, well, since you can't backflip, or since you can backflip and I can't, excuse me, I'm sorry. Since you can backflip and we all can't, we're not basically gonna do that. And that's what it felt like towards me. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go based on the facts that I know already. And I just want to go ahead and talk to Dan, not talk to, but learn from Dan Winter. And he actually just talked on this about 5 days ago, I believe, about how basically what he was talking about, and he actually corrected him scientifically, and it was very interesting to see. So I definitely encourage everybody to go see Dan Winter's take on what you would call. I'm sorry, I'm a little caught up right now.
On the geometry,
I'm trying to
on
say.
the geometry, because see, that's what it is that field, you can't pretend to know what you're talking about in that field, because there are people who really spent their whole lives doing that. And then also there is a surface level to that field, which is based on the geometry. And then there's another level beyond that is based on entities. And and I think that with Dan, even though people struggle with understanding him, so we could always use another person to explain what Dan is explaining, right? In many ways, right? So in this, I would say catch him in 6 months even, right? Like, because I think that's also where we got to see all of this, is that everybody is still coming into these stages of awareness. And what we should be seeing here soon, and I'm hoping I can encourage that, is some serious collaborations between the things that the community actually needs to sustain itself beyond entertainment.
I like that you said that too, because anybody could wrap their mind around anything, but I can really wrap my mind around things, especially these complicated subjects, when I just really keep coming at it. I found it really hard to penetrate that field because I learned things rather quickly, but learning from him was not easy because he speaks as if you should know the terms instead of basically breaking down the terms, which you do very much. And that's why I appreciate you, because you understand that people are coming from that people need to find a penetrating point when it comes to these type of fields. And I see that this is $1 billion industry if we can find a way to penetrate this field and bring it towards biology, and it'll really definitely help. But what is who can you recommend for people like me who is just now getting into this field that can find a point to penetrate it and basically find out more about how the unified field theory works?
You're already doing it. Technically, like I said, I'm listening to everybody. And, that's why I want to make it clear, because I think that, again, somebody would jump on one person's side or somebody would jump on one, because that's how it's designed. You with Terrence or you with Neil. And what I'm saying is I'm with Terrence and Neil. I'm with the idea that we all end up pulling out of this death spin, basically as a people, as a country, as a world, and stop getting played and actually pull resources together, because that's the thing. It's like, if we don't have like institutes in New York, places to teach and train on this, places where there's a cafeteria where you see what I mean? That's what seminaries are. Like, at the end of the day, there's so many academics, academic institutions. We have to get with it. It's like, this going back and forth and arguing. That's like the witty banter, right? It's still, when they're done at the end of the day, they're making medicines, right? Like, they're inventing again machines. They're looking into other elements and creating stuff, right? So look at these societies, the Academia of Lincia, the Academia of the Sciences of France, Sweden, Edinburgh, Torino. So all these societies, look, 1825, 1757, so 1666. So this has been 200 or 300 years of real study. So even if we were like, yo, they don't know anything. Well, they do now, because I think that's another catch to when you pick one side. You start assuming that the institution of science is stupid, right? And they don't know anything. They may have a occult knowledge that they are only practicing. So then if you jump on one side, then maybe you miss out on realizing that some of these pieces of equipment are very useful for even your next level of your own inventions, your next level of even measuring, again, your water, your food, and these kind of things in a way that you will understand, right? So there could be, well, let's just send energy into it and that's good enough. Absolutely it is. But then there's going to be some people that want to even teach that. Like, here's how you can test the energy that's on your food, right? And some say, well, you could tell that by just looking at it. And it's just, when you're constantly not ready to go from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade, then you're not ready to build the bridge, because that's what it really is. So I trust that's enough. Let's go ahead and get some more calls in, just so we can rapid fire out of here. I love you, brother.
All right,
Wholeness.
thank you, brother Justice. All right, fam. Wholeness, we got our brother Carlos on deck. Wholeness, Carlos.
Hello, Wholeness Drive.
Wholeness.
Hello, Wholeness. So, and it's a pleasure to finally be able to be in the presence of you. Well, I guess I already being in your presence, but being able to have the mic and to share with everyone is just a pleasure and a dream come true. And I gotta say, I still remember when the first time that I saw the video on YouTube on your channel of Inner Standing, the one that there was the teacher that was blazing the paper with his palm. And I gotta say, just to a little bit of to give a not follow up to the other person that was before, and that, well, I've been like studying holofractal theory for almost like 8 years, and honestly that was like where I started, and honestly it has been a very humbling way. Now 8 years into it, like 7 years ago, I had a Kundalini awakening while I was working on a call center and helping a friend on a chat. And while I was helping him, I was so happy that after I helped him, that I simply like I connected something. And then when I saw that some of my chronic disease, and I started to instantaneously heal, and I was able to feel that I was already connected to everything. And so that actually helped me expand my awareness, but I was only able to tap into that state of alternative consciousness for like 2 minutes. And then I started thinking, and then it was gone. But now, 6 years ago, no, 6 years from that experience, I have been able to unwrap it to some degree, because one of my biggest journey has always been to reach it once again. And I understood that everything was tapping into you could say like a 0 point energy field type of energy. All of the cells were working in tandem, and they were healing at a high pace that no longer disease could be possible to tap into that state that I was in. And I've been slowly piecing the things together. And for example, I live here in Guatemala, and Guatemala is like when you try to exchange the current currency of Guatemala to a dollar, it's like 8 times. And so whenever it comes to, well, trying to buy things on dollars, it's definitely quite a challenge from over here. And people simply do not have that desire to understand other things outside of their own culture due to not to the financial problem, but rather to the culture. And so one of my dreams and one of my things that always motivates me, it's going here and seeing and trying to self-replicate in my own way, in my own creative way here in Guatemala, to help rise that awareness, because we have to do it. We have to be that hope. We have to become that lighthouse and to bring that fire and that knowledge to everyone. And we are so. I always hear that people want to leave this country, but I actually love it and I want to do that job here. I want to take that responsibility and that baggage, because if I'm already a self-empowered individual with a higher level of awareness, then my baggage, my backpack is going to become lighter, because by my own self-awareness, then it's going to become easier. So I can go and grab everyone's other backpack and to allow them to become and to stand on their own 2 feet and help them replicate that on other people. Because if you help them, then they'll be grateful. And if they're grateful, then they'll do it on other people, because they will start leading by example. And so I do believe that the work that we are doing right now, it is important for us and for others, because we are a collective here and we all share that, because all is self and we are one. And so it's about having fun and finding that is creative. And so, not to take more time, I wanted to say thank you. And that is at the level I am currently. And I'm having my own struggles, yes. But those challenges are definitely that spice that give life its meaning.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, brother. I thank you so much for that. Also, do me a favor and hit me up and support. I want to help you bring this message to Guatemala and to do your thing. Like, let's see what we can politic. I already have some ideas,
Hmm.
but hit me up in live support. I'd love to talk to you about this.
Oh, okay. I
Okay.
will. Thank you.
All right, wholeness. Also,
Oh,
everyone, just so you know, like we're actually reaching a stage where we have almost live translation happening in every language, which is going to be an extreme lift for being able to bring large groups of people, even from different places, into conversations where instantly the what's being spoken of is going to be translating in voice in real time. So, China, here we come. All right, so we have a few hands still up here. I know it's getting a little bit late, so we're going to try to do some rapid fire. I want to get Clinton in. I also want to mention our brother Kamal did want to add to what you were saying, which was I'm not sure if he wants to jump in, but he left a note here of practice giving yourself goosebumps on command. This process is called piloerection. When your hair stands up, it's a gateway to create these abilities. It creates free stem cells. As you get better, you can do this faster and hold your focus with your chi better. So that's what Kamal has to say in the chat. I want to share that also with everyone. And also remind everyone, July 7th, July 5th, we're coming in and we're going to give you some more of that applicable knowledge. It's about your water, your 70% water. So it's going to give you some formulas no matter where you're at on things that you can do to not only test the water, but also increase its quality and increase its energetic potential. All right, brother. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you in a little bit, Carlos. Thank you for that.
Go ahead,
Wholeness.
brother Clinton. Jump in, fam. It's on you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Been a little while, but yeah, really enjoyable session, man. I just want to talk about a book that I downloaded a few years back. It's called The Universal One, and it's by Walter Russell. He's someone that wasn't really accepted by his peers when he wrote his books. But I'm reading it, and it seems it's kind of easy to digest. I think even Terrence Howard was talking about Walter Russell's theories, but he said that Walter was missing. There was something that Walter didn't include that I guess Terrence is saying that he's kind of found the answer to. But I don't really hear Walter Russell's name. Maybe I might be wrong, but I don't really hear his name mentioned that much. Seven, what do you have you read his stuff? What do you make of his theories if you have, and how does he fit into the grand scheme of you know, all the kind of arguments, opinions that are out there.
I've definitely, of course, heard his name thrown around in many different circles. I can't say, well, I would actually have to look at the work again because it has been some time since I've visited quite a bit of works, to be honest. And so I can't say that I can immediately off the brain refresh, what his thesis was and, what was really the stance. But I can definitely promise to take a look at it. And when we get together again, we can rap about the
Yeah,
keeper of the Royal Academy of Schools, which is a
yeah.
hell of a title.
He's he's got a couple of books, man. He's got, as I say, he's got the Universal one, and he's got one called, I think it's The Secret of Light. So obviously he's talking about vibrations and electromagnetism and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
I know
I
another
mean,
one that he, I think, they're all from the same ilk in that way is Hilton Hotima. I'm not sure if you dialed in like I Hilton Hotima was so off the chain with the knowledge. I got all of his final books and they were all in pamphlets. So it's like these pamphlets. And but anyway, they're still in there. But yeah, these are, this is kind of even like Bronner, in certain ways. But these guys are way more on the legacy though, as far as just, they were scientists, so they understood,
yeah,
and spiritualists. So they always had this blend, which equals metaphysics in many ways. Like there was actually never at this stage for sure a rift between spirituality and science. It was more of like, it went underground because all alchemy is in many ways chemistry. Chemistry is science. So it's like, you can't really separate them in that way.
yeah, yeah.
But it's good seeing you also, brother,
Yeah,
hearing from
you too, man, and
you.
everybody else, all the familiar faces. Thank you so much.
No doubt.
All right. Big love, Clinton. Up next, my brother Gil, Wholeness fam.
Homeless Tribe, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go for it.
Okay, great. First of all, Savon, I've been watching you for years, bro. Um, as I want to first say thank you for everything that you've done, and you really made a huge impact in my life. And I know that like we've been talking about the whole Terrence Howard thing, and that whole side of things, but I really want to kind of drive everyone back to the qigong and the neigong stuff that was shown because that's really been where I got started in my spiritual path. And with everything that you said about the changing world, AI, stocks, everything like that, obviously you might not think that stuff has to do with qigong, but for me, it's been everything. And I feel like I really like would love to see, a greater emphasis on like these kind of systems, I'm just like being like talked about more within the space and the tribe and within the university, because for me, just like some of the things that you've said, like training your mind to your heart, in the build on contacting the higher self, in Taoism and in Qigong and Neigong, like one of like the basic beginning meditations, it's called the inner smile, where you literally sit down and smile into your heart. And just that alone gives you all of like the secrets of latent space within yourself, contacting like the archons, like which are the organs, and being able to smile into all of them and kind of generate positive energy inside of yourself, which will literally be a huge benefit for your life. And it's been a huge benefit for my life, just trying to grow and build more. And it's helped me become a better at work and sales and trading that I do. Mastering my emotions in this way has been a huge benefit. And, so yeah, like I might not be at the level yet where I can, set things on fire, but I definitely know how to build my dantian. I definitely know how to do these qigong practices that help me ground into the earth and kind of reach higher ground. Because one of like the biggest things that I've been going over in your work is trying to ascend or achieve ascension by getting to higher and higher ground, which means, building up more and more chi power, but also making sure that I take the time out to plant my feet into the earth, to do the qigong practices that correspond to grounding into the earth and kind of have that communication. So I just want everyone to, don't sleep on that qigong because it changed my life. It's made me way more healthier. And I think that there's a lot of things that would be helpful for tribe in this new world we're living in, essentially, moving forward. So wholeness, tribe, wholeness, Savant, thank you so much for all that you've done.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you for bringing that up, and definitely wholeness, because it's also for us. It's a way of life, right? And not making those meditation points and those energy building points. It's really, it really affects every part of the day. So one of the things about because I didn't want it to. I like to put stuff in its own category when, let's say, if we're talking about something that's way on two polarities or different extremes from each other. And English at times doesn't serve us properly to express that, hey, we're talking about like, don't over obsess, but still realize that for sure these meditations and keeping your mind clear, HRV, which is the big one, that one right there, because that's timing the breathing and getting your heart in rhythm. These things have a way of pushing through problems, opening up currency, increasing synchronicity, and all that's happening because your field is picking up and becoming more alive, and you're becoming more aware of yourself. But then there's also that need to be aware also that that energy though is like a canister, and you have to be very aware of how the matrix loves to drain that canister at every single moment, and that could at times equal you not seeing the true benefits of what the power is, because the power is already getting drained, always getting drained. And to be able to relate that the two are separate in a certain way, where you have to regulate your spiritual energy when you enter into the matrix in a way where you don't leave your spiritual field open to the things that are going on in the matrix, and then have yourself all out there like that. So yeah, but thank you so much, brother, for sharing, and I look forward to our next gathering.
All right, give thanks, fam. Let's keep it going. Our brother Alex is up next. Wholeness, fam.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Go for it.
All right, so with first regards, honor to the group, honor to the tribe. I wanted to talk about how with understanding how what Terrence Howard and Dan Winters and them were trying to talk about with electricity and magnetism, how that could be related to my personal power field. So basically, what they were saying is that electromagnetism and magnetism are two different ways to measure the movement of one complicated substance that permeates all of reality. So therefore, like my auric field is not only electric, but also electromagnetic. So with that, what I'm saying is like, okay, so a big meditation I do, bro, is I gather a recollection of the complicated nature of the infinite universe, to the point where I know that there's infinite space in all directions with around me. So then I'm able to see, if I'm to measure the four directions, north, east, south, and west, I can see that they are expanding infinitely in all directions around me. So then I'm able to then pinpoint myself at the center of the universe, right? At that stage. So that basically just understanding off of that basic principle, all of us as conscious beings are at the center of the universe from our own awareness, just basing off of measurement. You know what I'm saying? Because it's infinity. So basically, at that stage, so it's like you pull that within yourself, then you can actually empower your auric field just by recognizing its own power, should I say.
Yes.
All right, so you mentioned, with that, I was going to mention that my favorite word right now in Hebrew is yira, which means all. So the brother earlier mentioned conjuring up a feeling of awe. That's important. So you wanted to unify through curriculum. That is what we want to do for the kids, for the future of the planet. If we could unify everyone who lives on Earth through the curriculum, that would be great. But how can we do that when capitalism empowers people towards division through their curriculum?
Let me answer that way I don't have so many things that I can't remember the first thing.
Mhm.
Deregulating intelligence, right? Right now it's happening right now. It's like we're in the wake. But intelligence, as the world has known it, and the value in which has been given to intelligence, is going to rapidly decrease in that way, right? It's not no longer going to be really special for you to be smart. Like, because remember, there's so many industries that are designed on
Damn.
somebody else knows something. He's a surgeon, so I ain't nobody gonna cut that open. But so it's very prestigious, very rare. But then when that becomes commonplace and others are capable of doing it, even machines or robots are capable of doing it, now it's like deregulating the value of what intelligence is. So intelligence will then be widespread. You would like see it would be common for us to hit a certain level of awareness, because here's the thing, Alex, if you really like tuck into like a village or a city or a town, when you go into like the worst places, you will always see that the intelligence level or the level of ignorance is high. The intelligence level is low and the level of ignorance is high, and that's what's being exploited. So if you give that person a real knowledge, which before there was a big cost on real knowledge, and now they have it, even if they're still in this hut or still in this, certain level of life, now the odds for them to really go so much more further have been drastically increased. Because just like even now, you can comprehend what you're reading because you have an education. And then that took you further. Now you're like, you get the spiritual aspect of it. Now you're in the symbols and now you're connecting with the field. And so you got a bridge and you kept going. A lot of these people, they didn't get the bridge. And a lot of times we can't even fathom what it's not like to have the bridge. So we don't even think that that's really the problem. But, going in and tucking in on it, that's why I was saying we unify with curriculum. That curriculum is really what I see, not just as spiritual, but also as like giving you the intelligence that you need to make it, like your uniqueness, right? And the stuff that we've been talking about for years, and having that in line, like, not, hey, here's another study on this in psychology. It's more of like, no, this is what we've all come to now understand based on the collection of our knowledge.
With that brings me to the next point of my notes. Actually, so so basically this is what I had written down next. It was one language based upon what we're at now with unifying all creative stories. So basically, all right, so my personal project right now, what I'm doing is I've noticed that there's so many correlations between all the ancient creation stories that have been spanned upon supposedly different like times or nations or whatever they say they're supposed to not be connected, but they're all so fucking similar that it's not making sense to me that they could not be connected. So it's like with you it mentioned like what is the purpose. Okay, so a lot of the conspiracy knowledge that people get obsessed with right now, like flat earth or Anunnaki, aliens, psychic powers, whoop de whoop, who's the best rapper or whatever. How is this knowledge fucking useful? Excuse my language. How is this helping us to advance? All right, so with that, I wrote this down. All right, so with Anunnakis as mentors for primordial mind, no way do YouTube videos explain this. Please be open-minded. So there are guides out there that can connect to some of these teachers from these ancient stories that if you're ready, or if you're ready or not, man, it can lead you down. You can be led down some and the shit can get dangerous. It can get dangerous too. So it's like dangerous, like you mentioned earlier about if you're not ready for the Kundalini happening, and then all of a sudden the serpent spreads out its whole hood. You weren't ready for that type of energetic experience. Now you're at the family function, like oh my god, like dang, you know what I mean? So basically, so what I'm saying is like there is a use for this knowledge, but the exact application might not be as obvious to someone who isn't initiated. Dang, you already said that earlier too, but I'm just elaborating on that. I'm just gonna open up on that on another level, bro, because some of this can become very, very useful to obtaining rare treasure and extreme abundance and success beyond words. Like technology cannot even begin to mirror the spiritual. So levels of awe and levels of understanding are still within reach. And that's why, bro, I give honor to the tribe, bro. I give honor if y'all let me speak. And I just want to end it with that. Thank
I appreciate you, brother. I mean, I only want to add to that. I mean, you know what it is. The knowledge, when it reaches that level, that's why they call it sacred knowledge, right? And I was listening to somebody today, and there was like, I think it was Mark Passio, and he was like, you can't get mad because you wanted to give the sacred knowledge to the profane and they couldn't understand it, right? I was just like, just remembering that this knowledge, it protects itself in that way. So even why we can create the perfect bridge to it, it's like for a person to really reach the heights of it, then they have to integrate it fully into their being. And that's where the integrity aspect of things come in, right? Because even in that moment where if you're seeing yourself being sneaky, if you're seeing yourself not being honest, if you see yourself teaching something that you don't even really believe in anymore, you know is a sham, if you see yourself doing something and it's taking you out of your care, all of those things, those are those moments, right? And then those are like windows, because it's like for a moment you can see yourself in your falsehood, and then falsehood you can no longer see, and then you become false. So we all have to continuously refresh, you know what I mean? And also realize that, hey, we're still talking about sacred knowledge, and we're making a transition from even a somewhat profane culture. We've learned a lot of things. Just being in, like, you know, when they say, hey, we need to have Earth play out to see what are the other things that can happen, and first time that good and evil and concepts like that exist. So, you know, there's been a lot of exploration in that arena. I think we've pretty much exhausted it. We've kind of gone to the lowest we can go. Like, look what's happening and how we're really treating each other as people, the kids, killing kids. This is as scummy as it gets, right? So I think we've hit bottom, if you may, right? So there ain't but really one place to go. And so I'm really glad also that we get an opportunity to even be here together, because it's important for us to realize how we're also responsible for building this bridge with each other. And it comes through our own awareness of how we feel about each other. And that's also what I was bringing up today about the Terrence Howard and Neil deGrasse Tyson, is like, while everybody's over here catching feelings, they probably over there drinking tea and laughing about it and already got over it. But the reality is that if there's always one versus the other, then we never figure out what happens when they combine. And then we miss the obvious. And that's what I was showing today. Look, the obvious is, look, the Qigong, science was already right in front of being able to show how that worked, but didn't even see it for what it really was, right? So then the spiritual person has to come back in, versus sometimes the spiritual people, they just have their remedies just not potentized, not purified, and not in the right formula. And this is where somebody that understands chemistry and that can really come in and really make that remedy that much more better. So that's what we're here for in this wonderful multidisciplinary. So listen, everyone, I know we still got some hands up. You know, I want to go in. I want to make sure that we get no, I don't want to go in. I want to make sure we get everyone. So we literally going to have 10 more minutes. I'm just going to ask everybody that's going to jump up. That's Omnipotent, Geo, Fafali, and then Universal Frequency. And then hopefully we can get in Raymond to still understand. We got 10 minutes. So that's about 2 minutes for each person. So thank you, Alex. We love you, brother. Great to see you. And let's keep cultivating.
Infinite tribe.
Omnipotent, wholeness. We got 2 minutes on the rapid fire.
Wholeness, family. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, wholeness.
Peace. Greetings to all, man. Wholeness to all the tribe. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Been following you for some time, and you know, the things you're doing and the bridges you definitely have connected. The space you hold is tremendous, and you know, I took this path, and I had a path and journey, and this life of coming into things very much organically, like, you know, the space I from the diet to, you know, just going through so much, you know, and just getting the transmissions to make certain changes at times, and actually just going with them, and trusting my inner self, and it's made a lot of difference, and it led me here. And never know, listening and learning, So yeah, much respect and love to you. My name is Pierre. You know, I was born on the 7th of '92 in August, and I have all three fire signs in my chart just to put it out there. And I just really had two questions. I wanted to know, basically, one brother touched on it was the organs. It was about how the organ feel. Well, how does it align with the organs, which is also the archons? So that was one of the questions, brother.
All right. Well, in respect for rapid fire, I'm gonna have somebody drop you a link inside the Discord because I exhaust that topic, and even right now, I
Okay.
will be doing it no
Okay,
credit if I tried to, show that correlation. But it's definitely there. Did you have
okay, yeah, that's
anything else that
fine.
you
And
wanted to know?
also I just wanted to touch on grounding on understanding why, because I'm from Baltimore City and I come from the streets, for real. So it's like I just wanted to understand on how much and why the whole G being a gangster and the 5 star, the 6 star and the colors, red and the blue have so much a hold metaphysically on the community. So I always wanted to know your take on that.
Because they're
Oh,
polarities, like red and blue are sitting at opposite points on the spectrum. 5 and 6 being an even and an odd number are feminine and masculine, and they're the creative
mhm,
forces. That's why they're embedded, like in the streets of Washington, where the 5 and 6 is embedded. And so,
mhm.
anytime, and of course, gangs is going to show you it right there because everything is about opposites and conflicts. So, that's the field, and that's of course what we were saying today is that hey, these tales are classics. It's been going on for so long, we've even forgot what it's like to be out of it because even rap itself is there's always a beef. There's somebody that needs to be, shot up, killed, and even though we listen to this like it's entertainment now, it actually hasn't it's seeped into the subconscious where it's no longer entertainment. So we've brought even these conflicts into our own very being. And but yeah,
Mhm.
that's why you're gonna see opposing male, female, that's the biggest one. And that's the part that we can see in the progress in ourselves, how far we're getting based on how we're able to balance out those polarities.
Oh, okay, yeah. I see what you're saying. And also I just wanted to say that the conflict, the gangs and everything, it didn't come from conflict. Of course, over time things get saturated and they lose its true meaning, but it came
Yeah.
from like protecting the community and unity and things of that nature and like congregation, like you spoke about earlier, and maybe people not having like so much of ground up as knowing to how to build something constructive, and cooperative rather than destructive or distorted. But that's where it came from. And of course, over time, once certain people get their hands on it, the elite, they can make it into whatever they want to be. And then, it drives the energy that way.
Absolutely. I'm definitely well aware of the origins of many of the gangs, not all of them, but many of them. And they always are based on things such as family, like even the mafia. And generally,
Yeah.
when there's separations, it's because of a third party has come in play and empowered the weaker party and filled their mind with ideas of having it all. And that's pretty much how even nations have fallen under that same demise. So, what maintains importance is how solid every member of the family actually is, not just one. And so, it encourages all to look out for each other and to strengthen each other so that we can maintain this bond. And that means encouraging each other to remove ourselves from duality because it becomes difficult. And if you see it as something else and you get used to doing it, but then you start even doing it to your own kind, quote unquote. And so, yeah, that's a serious thing. So let's keep
Yeah.
going. Let's keep going. No, I'm trying to get like,
I appreciate
everybody
it, man.
saying,
Holding this family,
but
holding
I
this in
love
the
you though,
tribe,
brother.
man. I appreciate it.
Keep your head up all the way. You know what I mean? Also, tribe,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to cut it short. Like the moderators has dipped out. I know there's a few of us here, but I want to get it in. But I'm gonna have to desist. I will say though that we can pick up this conversation, of course, inside of Discord. The SLS is always happening. Like I trust that I will be able to come in next strong, or the next time we come in the session and then just come right into, just hearing the tribe Q&A in that, because I do want to hear you and I do want to make sure that you're clear with everything that is coming forward. But of course, I also want to, respect the time and not ride out. It's, we're hitting that 3-hour mark. Also, again, as I mentioned, there's some stuff coming up as always. We've now moved into specialists. That's happening incredible. So just lots more coming from Secret Energy. But just also remember, I'm encouraging you to unify. I'm encouraging you to, when you see these folks, your friends, encouraging them to see the best of both of the worlds. That's really how it's going to all come together. And there's something that each person has to teach, especially when they're really standing on that this is all there is. It's always good to learn from that, because the person is isolating themselves and just looked at life that way. But you also have to be respectful of the multidisciplinarian to know that there's never been just one system or one solution for everybody. You need to learn really from everybody and actually bring together all things. Wholeness and Balance Vibrations Tribe, thank you so much. I'll be talking to everyone soon. We give thanks. Let's go ahead and take it out here.
Wholeness.
Wholeness, infinite love and gratitude.
Thank you,
Yes.
Savannah family.
Yeah, wholeness to
Wholeness,
vibration.
love you all.
Love
Grateful.
Y'all have a beautiful night.
Love you guys.
Wholeness.
Take
Wholeness.
care.
Wholeness.
Absolutely.
Love
Out.
you.
Wholeness.
Yeah.
Love y'all.
Wholeness.
Wholeness.
Thank you. Good tribe vibe. Yes.
Wholeness tribe, much love.
Wholeness. Wholeness.
Balance vibration.
Yeah.
Wholeness.
Wholeness. Amazing. Wholeness.
Absolutely.
All right, family, wholeness. I'll be seeing everyone soon.
Peace.